Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. Today is a how-to video and I'm going to be showing you how to replace the sink in your caravan. Now if you've got a Swift like me and it was built before 2019, then chances are you've got this plastic resin sink, and to be honest they're not very good. They collect stains really badly and they are a nightmare to get rid of. Let me show you. And as you can see, it's not a pretty sight. We've tried all sorts of cleaning products on this and it just won't shift it. So we've decided to replace it with a stainless steel one, and I'm going to show you how to do that now. So the first thing you need to do is quite simple really. Empty the drawers and cupboards below. I've removed our cutlery drawer ready so that I can get access to it. Now it's quite narrow and tight underneath there, but most of the working that you're going to be doing initially is on the top by removing the seal of the original sink. So I'm going to show you the tools I'm going to be using today, and we'll crack on. So here are the tools we're going to be using in order to do this replacement sink project. Now from the left we have a tape measure, a roll of masking tape, some silicone solvent remover or softener. Tucked away next to that is a little artist paintbrush, more about that later. A Phillips or crosshead screwdriver, a Stanley craft knife or a normal craft knife depending on what you've got, and also a scraper as well. So they're the stuff that we're going to be using today in order to do this job. So prior to ordering your sink, what you want to do first of all is measure your existing sink, and how they recommend you do that is you measure across the full width like so, and then you also measure the inner circle and also the depth as well. Now no sink is standard to a particular caravan make or model, they vary so much. Mine is no exception, and there's two ways that they actually fit them to the worktop. It's a bit like your kitchen sink at home really. They can be just siliconed in, which mine is, or you can have one that's got clamps that fit it from underneath. So you need to check if it's got clamps, and if it does you need to remove them first of all, and then you need to get the silicone off. So I'm going to just quickly explain how I'm going to remove the silicone and we'll go from there. So in order to remove the silicone from the sink, I've bought some silicone remover and its softener as well. Now it comes with its own built-in brush, but it's really narrow. And remember earlier on I said an artist brush? Well, that's what I'm going to be using because it's going to get into the actual crevices a lot easier. So I'm going to be painting that on and leaving that for the allotted time that it says on the tub, and then I'm going to crack on and see if I can release it. What it does recommend beforehand though is you actually scrape this section here like so and get any excess out first of all and then paint on. But always remember the instructions and follow them to the letter with anything like this, because you don't want to damage your worktop. So while I'm waiting for the silicone softener and remover to do its job, I thought I'd show you what I bought. And this is it. It's a stainless steel one and it's a really thick, good quality one. It wasn't cheap, as most things aren't when we're buying for our caravans and motorhomes, but nonetheless I'm happy with it. Now I purchased it from Southdown Motorhome and Leisure. I have no affiliation with them, I just found it online and it was the one that suited the size for my particular caravan. Now there was a bit of a difficulty and a waiting time for this, and it was coming up close to my schedule ready to make this film. So I contacted Ash in the customer service and said, look, is there any chance you can progress this a bit quicker? And he said, well, unfortunately we're waiting for the suppliers to supply them, and that could be a few more weeks. So I thought, well, fair enough, I'll wait a bit longer. Anyway, unbeknownst to me, Ash went above and beyond and managed to contact Grasshopper Leisure, and they've supplied it through Southdown. So I'm really pleased, and I'd like to thank them both for going that extra mile for us and getting the sink to us. So I've managed to get the sink out. Now I will warn you, it takes a minimum, depending on how much silicone they've used, it's going to take at least 20 minutes to do this job, just removing the sink alone. I did actually use a bit of the cardboard as well and a screwdriver to get underneath and just wedge it up slightly so that it broke the silicone seal, and it's worked. You can see now, this mess on here is the existing silicone, which I've just put the softener on and remover, and I'm going to slowly go around and scrape that with a blade and get it all nice and clean, ready for the fitting of the new one. Okay, so that's just temporary. I've just popped it in there just to show you. I'm really happy with that. This lip on the edge here is not quite as wide as the other one, and there's a bit of a shadow there, but I'll be able to get rid of that with some Barkeeper's Friend, so I'm alright with that. Now the sink I chose an offset drain hole because that's the way the previous one was, but the problem I have got is this drain aperture is actually too small, so I'm going to have to go out in a moment and get a bigger one. I'm hoping I can find one that is non-commercial, because the sizes on Caravan piping are a lot smaller or unique to the Caravans than they are to standard plumbing, just so you'll pay their prices really. But anyway, I'm happy with that now, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove it, just show you what I mean by the offset as well. So obviously I have to have an offset, because if I had a centre one, it would reach this point here, and it would bang on it, and it wouldn't allow the sink to fit flush, and I didn't want to start cutting any more out. Okay, that was brilliant. I managed to get the correct size drain for the circumference of the whole of the sink. I'm really pleased about that. Now there's some additional tools I'm going to introduce now, and that is these. Okay, from left to right we have the Sikaflex, and it's the 522. I think it's the only one you can buy nowadays, because they've changed everything around. So I'm using that as my sealant and adhesive, which is going to work out perfectly for me. Obviously a silicone gun and a tube nozzle, and we've got a flathead screwdriver. Now the reason why we've got a flathead screwdriver now is basically the screw on the retaining nut for the drain is actually flathead and not crosshead. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to explain a few bits and bats before we actually start to stick the Sikaflex down and get the sink into place. So I suspect you're wondering why I had the masking tape, and it's quite simple really. I need to align the sink so that I know that the drain is going to line up with the pipe. So I'll do that loosely before I actually silicone it down, and then put two pieces of tape over the sink and the actual unit on both sides. And then what I'm going to do now is just gently cut that now on both sides, and then when I take it out I know that that will be aligned up ready for when I place the sink back down on the silicone. So if you notice, I've put the silicone of the Sikaflex all the way around the outer edge, because I've got quite a narrow lip. I don't want too much splodging out, but if it does, I'm just going to wipe it away. So I'm going to fit the sink now. Well folks, that's how I replace the sink in the Caravan. It's about a morning or an afternoon's work, so you need to allot that much time. The hardest part of doing it really is removing the old sink, because there's a lot of silicone underneath there and it needs to all be completely removed. Now the cost of the sink, I paid £80 for the sink. I paid £9.50 for the new drain, because it did need a larger one, but the old one was no good anyway. And then the rest of the money was spent on the silicone softener, which I have to admit was a really good product. I was quite impressed with that. Did its job. If you read the instructions carefully and follow it to the letter, it'll do it for you, and it'll make life a lot easier. Well, thank you very much for watching. I do hope you'll join us again real soon, but in the meantime, bye for now.